This week's episode of Fruits Basket was a very entertaining and curveball of an episode. This girl, Kagura, I wasn't expecting her to have such a violent and boorish side, as she starts off as being what I thought would be the very embarrassed, very emotional, cutesy girl. And then when you see her, I would guess say true side, with how she's very head-on like a boar, and is very willing to beat up the one that she claims she loves, and then we'll ask things like, what happened to you? Why are you so beat up? What happened to my beloved Kyo? This girl's amazing, and I really liked her introduction and just what she did to this cast as a whole. Even though this was probably the most entertaining and comedic of the 4 episodes, there was still the hints and kind of subtle clues to the characters themselves. We're seeing characters kind of admitting that they do feel jealousy. We're seeing characters kind of push back that maybe even if someone like Kyo back in the day didn't have many people around him that wanted to be close to him, and maybe he agreed to marriage because he was threatened with his life, you can see like there was these connections, and maybe as they grew up, someone like Kyo maybe wanted to push back from where he was like as a kid, and someone like Kagura possibly kind of kept to her same mentality of loving Kyo, and maybe not recognizing that possibly that he doesn't want to be in a romantic relationship the same way she does, or possibly he does and just doesn't know how to admit to his feelings. I really like her introduction because I thought she would just be someone who's kind of like a one and done trope and call it a day, someone who's fun to watch, but she would just be the girl who would kick Kyo's ass, and I expect she probably will kick Kyo's ass for on more than one occasion throughout this story, but I did like just how human she felt, kind of similar to the rest of the cast, and how you're seeing some pretty interesting dynamics flourish, because you have someone who, like Kyo, who we thought was just going into the mountains to train to basically become strong enough so he could beat Yuki, but we're actually seeing he has a real passion for martial arts. I like how with last week we're seeing kind of Yuki open up and seeing his true colors, and with this week's episode, Toru was able to see kind of Kyo's true colors in terms of like, he has someone who he really looks up to within the family, who's really good at martial arts that he claims that even Yuki couldn't beat, and it was like a really passionate thing for him, and I like that. I like the little moments that kind of make them feel human and more than just their zodiac animal. As much as I love seeing things like Kyo wanting to kind of lay on the rooftop, which is such a cat-like thing to do, someone wanting to be on a high place elevated from the ground, I like those little moments that remind you that they are associated with their zodiacs, but the thing that I love the most is their more human and raw moments. Like, someone like Kagura who really wants to be with Kyo, and even though she is a little too clingy for pretty much anyone's good, I mean, the fact that she threatened him with murder back in the day to not marry him, like, that's a yandere trope to say the least, but I like how that wasn't like her defining quirk in this episode. She actually had a pretty realistic and human reaction to a lot of these situations. Like, when she actually was getting upset, even when she was delirious to the fact that she was literally kicking Kyo's ass, she still had these very human moments, like she's seeing like there's another girl and she's worried that is he romantically interested in her and not me, and I think those little moments are nice, especially when she's going out to essentially buy more groceries, she forgets her wallet, and then Toru comes in and basically pays for it. And I like that bonding moment because I honestly thought they would just be like these romantic rivals or something to that nature, like that was the direction they were going to go. But in one episode, they really kind of find common ground and become what I would associate as friends. And I like that. Like, even at the end of the episode, when she starts, like, attacking Kyo, saying, like, are you cheating on me? She's, like, acknowledging the really interesting quirks within her and saying, like, even though you are a boar and you kind of, like, just get lashed onto one thing and you just don't look side to side, you just head towards your goal, she really appreciates the fact that she can love someone to this nature, because Toru's never felt that. She's never felt this love that burns so deep like it does within Kagura, and I really like that. The fact that Toru can kind of, like, bring out the deep and vulnerable emotions not only just with the boys that she's currently living with, but also girls such as Kagura, which really kind of impressed me because they managed to be so fun and entertaining and just comedic, but also bring out those raw and vulnerable emotions, which I really liked in this episode. This was a very strong episode, and I mean, the end of the episode, it does say like, oh shit, grandfather's probably calling her home saying that she could live, but the fact that this is a fairly long series, I don't imagine she'll be parting ways for too long, if at all. I imagine that old grandpa's gonna say, okay, if you have friends to live with, possibly that's okay, but obviously time will tell with where they want to go. This episode was definitely unexpected. I mean, last week's cliffhanger to then how it starts off kind of reassures you that, oh yeah, this is gonna be kind of a cute and comfy and maybe even tropey little girl, and then she just kicks Kyo's ass. Like, I think she kicked his ass like a couple dozen times in this episode. Like, the amount of times where I'm just like, okay, she's spinning him around in a circle or slamming him through a door, and then you'll just see the family being like, can you like stop breaking our door, smashing our TV? using all our food to then throwing them down the walls just so we have nothing to eat. Like, I just like how simple it was, but how effective it was, because the way they shift up into the, like, comedy designed animation, the very loose artwork, the very loose animation, to really just make it feel fast, and almost like you can't kind of tell what she's doing, because she is just so powerful. Like, you wouldn't expect someone in this kind of cute little body to then just be like, holy shit, she actually is a boar with this immense amount of power. I just loved it. I loved how it looked, I loved how it functioned, and even though it was such probably the comfiest and cutest episode of the series, it still kind of laid out the kind of hints that there are some darkness and kind of deep secrets that people are trying to keep hidden, especially Kyo, who when she starts talking about a quote-unquote true form, he very much gets into a violent state and covers her mouth saying like, you better not say anything or you will pay, and then right back into the comedy of being like, who are you kidding, who's gonna make me pay, and then she kicks his ass. I really like the subtle hints about jealousy or just self-doubt or just hiding some sort of true form and fearing if people see that true form that they won't want to associate themselves with you. I like how even in the middle of such a comfy and fun episode, they still are laying down the foundation for future arcs and events that have yet to come, so we can start piecing together and theorizing and maybe even catching some foreshadowing moments to see where they truly want to go. And that's what makes Fruits Basket such a great series, is that they constantly, even in the middle of a joke, they can lay the foundation for such probably emotional events that are going to come. As we get introduced to more and more of these families, knowing that there's 3 females within the Zodiac family, I'm really excited not only to just see how they'll take the animal and kind of like associate it with their personality. Kyo is someone who is like a cat. He likes to be on elevated places, you know, on a roof sleeping rather than on the floor. We have someone like Kagura who is a boar. When she gets determined, her love for Kyo, she goes head on. She doesn't look side by side, a very boorish thing to do. I like how they can take these animal traits and really apply it to their characters, but in actual human ways that really makes them feel quite interesting and distinct from a lot of anime characters, but also how they're fleshing out this pretty emotional and gripping story about a very dysfunctional family, about people wanting to push away. Why can't Kagura live in their house? Like, what's going on in that realm? Like, there's obviously a lot of complex things at play, a lot of pieces being manipulated, probably by the head of the family, and I'm really excited to see just why the family is this way and what really caused them to feel the way that they do, why someone like Yuki, who is so kind of beloved in this family, what also really led him to want to separate himself even if he was the praised child, why someone like Kyo wants to go back into that family. Like, there's all these little stories that are going to get flourished as we watch a very human character interact, and we're learning that things such as, like, the Zodiacs, like, they should probably marry within the Zodiac family, as it just works out better for them than with a normal human, things like that. So it's going to be interesting seeing how all these relationships flourish, both the human and kind of Chinese Zodiac ones will, and just where they want to go with this overall story, because there's so many things that they can explore with a very small cast of characters as of right now, but knowing that there is an entire family of these people, like, they have so much room to go into very comedic situations, very serious and dramatic, and just almost mundane scenes that will become something so interesting because of the kind of Zodiac twist that they have. Music on point, voice acting on point. Really, we're 4 for 4 with Fruits Basket 2019. I really did think, though, when we got to see just how violent she was, that I would grow stale of her comedy, just her abusing Kyo, but it was pretty interesting how in a matter of 20 minutes they could find new ways to abuse the poor man and make me say, you know what, it still feels different from the last abuse sequence, so I'm actually okay with it. I could easily see a character trope like her being so repetitive in one note in pretty much any other author's hands, but with what we've seen over the past 4 weeks of Fruits Basket, I can clearly see that there's a way to take those kind of tropey gimmicks and actually make them feel like a character and kind of reuse those humorous sequences in new and interesting ways so they don't feel repetitive or one note or anything like that. So anytime we see Kyo get his face bashed in by this girl, we don't feel like it's just that's all she is. She's just that humorous, abusive girl. She actually does have a character, especially seen with her and Toru bonding over this episode. I think there's going to be a lot of fun personalities that at a first glance, we're going to say we know what to expect with them, but within a matter of an episode, if not 2, we're going to see that the author had a pretty clear vision of how to make them into someone memorable, the same way we feel about Toru or Yuki or Kyo. All the characters we've seen up till now. The future of this series is continuing to look bright, and once again, another great episode. For everyone who did watch this week's episode, for those who watched the original anime, read the original manga, or for anime originals like myself, what did you think of episode 4 and the very interesting character we got introduced to in this week's episode? Did you find her to be a blessing in disguise like myself, or was she a little too clingy for you? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button if you did enjoy. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.